Okay, so this is going to be a tutorial on how to print your labels for your assets using Maintenance Connection and a third-party software or web-based software called Avery. Everything included in this tutorial is also shown in the Maintenance Connection playbook. Right through from page 120, it takes you through a detailed SOP on how to export the labels from Maintenance Connection and ultimately print them and add them to your assets. The first thing we need to do is access Maintenance Connection, and this is where we start the process of ultimately printing our labels. So I'm going to log into Maintenance Connection, and we're going to need to access a report, and to do that we can either go straight through to reports using the report tool, or we can use MRO. So I've clicked MRO, I'm just going to wait for it to load up, and I'm going to access the reports and find our report that we can use to print the labels, or at least start the process. So if I go through to reports now, and there's two reports for printing labels, one for inventory and one for assets. I'm going to take you through the assets process, but both of them are pretty much the same. And the easiest way, it can be found under asset reports. You can actually search all and then use the search function using the percentage wildcard to find labels. If I click on assets, you can see there's the second report down there. There's a report called Asset Barcode Export for Label Printing. If I wanted to see the inventory report, it's just as easy as going to inventory reports here. And again, pretty much identical. There's inventory barcode export for label printing as well. Let's go back to asset reports, and I'm going to go ahead and run our asset barcode export for label printing report. Do that, I can highlight the report and click run report. The first thing that's going to happen is you get a criteria window, and this is really important because this is where you're going to select the route or functional area, or maybe even an individual asset that you're going to print the labels for. And right now the only criteria we've got selected is the type of the asset. And the two options are asset and location. The reason asset is selected by default is because we're only attaching our QR codes or our labels to physical assets, so conveyors or sorters or box makers, a physical asset that we can stick a label to. So we're going to leave that in place, asset, and we want to select our route or our functional area maybe, or even our individual asset through this criteria window here, and it's the top one there. You can see location or asset. And the main two options you're going to use is either select or select multiple. Select multiple is basically you can select multiple routes or multiple assets. If you've got if maybe down the line you've got a few assets where the labels are worn and need replacing, you can select those different assets through there, or even different locations as well. I'm going to click select, which is just a single asset or a single route, to keep it simple for this tutorial. And I'm going to go ahead and select a route at one of our Brampton site actually. So let's drill down here, and you're probably all familiar with this asset hierarchy now. I'm going to inbound under BDC material handling equipment. I'm going to go to inbound conveyors, and you can see now in this inbound merge lane I've got 6 assets here that I'm going to print the labels for. So to do that, I'm going to say inbound conveyors, and that's the route I'm going to select. So now my report will show the 6 conveyors within this inbound merge lane 1 door 61 route. So I'll click apply, and as you can see, here's my 6 assets that we've just seen in that previous window. I can do a quality check here, so I make sure that all the information required is on this report. And this is all the fields taken from the asset that are going to be included in the label. So you want to make sure nothing's missing, so make sure we've got the cabinet panel numbers, make sure the model's included and it's correct. Make sure the QR code meets the naming convention. By that I mean there's a site prefix like this here, so BDC, Brampton Distribution Centre, and then the bed tag, BM010050. We've got the repair centre name, and then we've got the route, which is the parent asset. And what we want to do with this report is to export it, because we're going to create a file, a CSV file, and we're going to upload it to another tool. And you'll see that in a second, but the first thing I want to do is click export up here on the top left. Several options will populate, including the .csv or the comma delimited file that I mentioned, and that's the option we want to select. I click that, and then you can see there, report output, IQ, MWS.csv. There's a couple there I've done previously. I'm going to open that file, and you can see there's our labels. Now we don't need to do anything with this. The only thing I would do is probably rename the file to something a bit more familiar than IQMWS, so you can easily locate it. Now they're all going to go to your downloads folder, which is obviously here. And you can see there's a couple I made earlier again. I'm going to rename this to inbound merge 1, so I can easily locate that. It won't let me do it because the file's open, obviously, so I'm going to close that and then try again. There we go. Now we don't need to do anything else with that file. We've got our file, we've renamed it, and we're going to go ahead and open another tool now. So the file we've exported and just saved, we want to import that now to another spreadsheet, which is a tool called the MC label data validation tool. And if you have access to the GSC support and material handling shared drive, you can find it under maintenance connection, labels. Under here you can see there MC label data validation. If you don't have access to this drive, you can get it via your maintenance manager or via myself, Chris_Ramsdale@gap.com. I'll be able to send you this. And all we're going to do is open the spreadsheet. Now as this loads up now, you'll see there's a security warning. Again, there's some previous assets that I've been printing labels for. You can see here. I want to enable content because there's various macros that are going to run on this spreadsheet. And then if you're in control panel, it should automatically take you there. You get two options. You're going to get import data and export data. Really simple. I'm going to import data. And then what loads up is a window, and I'm going to select our inbound merge 1, which we exported earlier, and if you remember, I renamed that to inbound merge 1, and I'm going to click open. Nice and easy. Again, a small quality check. You can see there we've got asset IDs correct, cabinet IDs are correct. You can imagine if you're printing a really long list of assets, you're going to be able to easily identify any errors you may have made when you've created your assets or you've renamed your assets. You're going to easily identify them on this window here. So it's kind of a good place to do that, as was the previous report. So just make sure everything's in order. There's no mistakes, naming conventions used, all the fields are populated, that kind of thing. So we've got our report here. I'm going to go back to control panel, and I'm going to click export data. You see the screen blink. Nothing actually happens other than we've actually exported another file to our downloads folder. You don't know that from this window. There's nothing obvious telling you that. But if I go straight to my downloads here, back to downloads, you can see there's a file that's been created, and it's the name of the user who's created the file, who's using the spreadsheet, so Chris Ramsdale, myself. And you'll see MC export, and you'll see a series of numbers here. That's actually a date and timestamp, so 2022, it's currently the second month, it's the 23rd day. You can see actually the time as well, 13:05 in the afternoon. Again, I'm going to rename this because this is actually the file that we're going to upload to Avery. So I'm going to rename this now. I'm going to call it inbound merge again. Inbound merge 1. I'm going to call this label upload, just to separate it from the previous file that we created. And the reason I'm keeping these as well is in future, if you ever need to print these labels out again, maybe you want to add more labels to this particular route, I can easily just not go through this whole process again. Just find this file that we've created and upload that to Avery if I wanted to, and print another batch of labels off. Okay. So we want to use avery.com to upload the file we've just created using the MC validation tool. So use your web browser, Edge or Chrome, and type in www.avery.com. I think it would be a good idea to add this to your favourites, because it's going to be the website you're going to access multiple times as you continue to print off labels in the future as well. So go ahead, add this to your favourites. The first time you access this, you will need to create an account, and that's really easy. Just to click on the symbol up here, click on create an account there, and then you can either use an individual email address if it's just one person going to be responsible for printing labels off. What other sites have done is create a departmental email address, so multiple users can just use the same email, and you're not having to create loads of different accounts and upload multiple different templates, as you'll see in the future of this video. So what I'm going to do, once you've type in your email address, obviously password, create an account, really easy. Then you can sign in here. I'm just going to use my individual email and click sign in, and there you go. You'll see you can sign in. So hello Gap, the account's called Gap, and what I'm able to do now, when I log in, I'm able to click on this icon projects here, or this lettering projects even, and you can see some labels that we've created. You can see there's the GSC standard label. When you first create your account, these labels won't exist, and you have to upload a project. It's called an Avery project. It's another type of file. Again, this project can be found in the shared drive. So if I was to click on upload Avery project, again, you can browse, and I'm going to go back to the shared drive, which is GSC support. If you don't have access to the shared drive, it can be obtained through your maintenance manager. And there you go, it's an Avery file there. This is asset label template.avery. Click OK. And then that will upload. So this is going to be the template that we use to print all of our asset labels. You can see here, these are all the fields that we was looking at previously on both, the report and also the MC data validation tool. You'll recognize the repair center, the asset number, obviously model, cabinet ID, and route. That's all there, and these are all going to be, it's almost like a mail merge where we upload our file now, and it's going to change the text on these labels, and we're able to print these labels off using this tool now. So now all we need to do is upload our file that we created earlier from the MC validation tool. Now, firstly, you want to make sure that you're on Edit All. That's important that that's selected. And then we're going to open an object list here. Once you open the object list, you're able to select all the different components of this label. And it actually doesn't matter which one you've got selected. It can be any of them. So I'm just going to select text 1 for now, which is the repair center. And then over on the left-hand pane here, we've got import data and mail merge, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to click import data, and we're going to replace the spreadsheet. Now a window will pop up, and it's asking me to browse for a file. Now that file is the file that we created from the validation tool, so not the original one. If you remember, we exported the report first, and we then imported that to the validation tool. And then we exported it from the validation tool, and we created this second one here, inbound merge 1 label upload. And you can easily tell, even if you haven't renamed them, which by the timestamps there, you can see that this one was created just over 10 minutes after the original one. So I'm going to select that now. So inbound merge 1 label upload. Click open. Again, you can do another check if you haven't done it already on the previous 2 steps. Just make sure that everything is correct. Yep, and then I'm going to click next. Again, just click through next. Yep, finish mail merge. As I said before, it's very similar to a mail merge. Click finish. And what we've actually done now is we've imported that file, and we've changed, or we've added our file to create our labels. And again, you can't really tell. The only way you can tell is actually you can see a little preview on the top right there of your labels. What you can do there is click preview and print. And there we are. there are labels. So you always get the original kind of default label here, just showing the fields that are being used. But then after that, all the labels that all the assets that you've added to that file will show in a typical A4 format here. So now we need to print our labels, and it's a really simple process. We're actually going to create a PDF file exactly of what we're looking at here now. So we're just going to convert this to a PDF. One thing you will notice, and this is typical with Avery, is that it actually creates multiple pages of blank labels. And the workaround with that really is so you avoid printing off, several pages with no labels on them at all, is that when we convert it to a PDF, obviously we can just print page 1, or the number of pages you've got where you've got labels, instead of printing all. Now to do that, we're going to select print it yourself, and you're going to get PDF to print. I'll select get PDF to print here, and you'll see you'll get the option to download PDF. Simply going to click that, and then you can open your file there in the top right of your browser. You can see there 60505 Ultra Duty GHS label. So that's actually the label template that we're using as well. So it's important you remember that number, that 60505, because they're the labels that you're going to need to load into your printer, into your laser printer or inkjet printer. In place of a standard A4 piece of paper, you're going to load those into your tray, and then when you create your PDF, as I have now, it's as easy as printing off any document. Just make sure that you've got your labels in the tray. I would first probably just do a test print on a standard A4 paper to make sure everything's okay. Well, there you go, I've got the file there. And again, I would probably change this and save this somewhere on a shared drive, on a site-specific shared drive, under a folder where you keep all your labels, all the PDFs for your labels in the various different routes. Because although they're heavy-duty labels, there is a chance they will wear or maybe get damaged, and you are going to easily want to replace these labels in the future, or maybe even add more labels as well to a single asset. So you want to easily do that without having to go through this process again. So as always, they save to your downloads file. So you just go to your downloads, and you can see there, I'm going to rename that. For myself, I'm just going to keep the standard naming convention I've been using. So it was inbound merge lane 1, if you remember, and I'm just going to put PDF on the end, and I'm going to keep that in my downloads folder for now, just for the purpose of this video. But like I said before, I would recommend saving that into maybe a shared drive, or if you got a local drive that's specific to your site, so multiple people got access to that. And there you go. So you can obviously access that at any time, and it'll open this window. And then it's as simple as clicking print. And like I said briefly before, you are going to get multiple pages of blank labels. It's just something typical of Avery. So I am just going to select, e.g. page 1. Again, if you're usually going to be printing off a bigger route than this, so you select page 1, 2, 3, whatever page you got labels, and all you would do is click print, and then your labels will print from your printer on the Avery labels that you've put into your tray. Again, I would just carry out a test print first on a standard A4 piece of paper, because the labels are quite expensive. So click print, and then you have your labels. So when you come to printing your labels, we recommend that you have at least at a minimum 1 label by the isolator or by the lockout point. We would also recommend that you add multiple labels to an asset, especially a longer asset or a larger asset, and even more so an asset that's at high level where it's difficult to access only by a lift or a cherry picker. Because that way a technician isn't going to have to travel along the conveyor in a lift to scan the label. It defeats the purpose of even having the label in the first place. So at a minimum 1 label by the isolator, but then it's important to think logically about where you want to place other labels on the asset. And remember that the whole idea of having the labels is for convenience and for quality of life for the technician. So you're able to scan the QR code, and then have all the information of that asset, including any current work orders, any parts, any drawings, documents, or health and safety information that you need for that particular asset. But most importantly, to add hours and create a work order against that asset really easily and effectively.